Today we're going to assemble a lower individual bottle rack. Now, there are three types of kits for lower individual bottle racks: a 2-column, a 4-column, and an 8-column. Today we're going to be assembling a 4-column rack. Let's go over the components that are included in your kit. First of all, you have 2 end ladders. The end ladder is determined by only having one set of bottle rails on one side of the ladder. There are 3 center ladders having bottle rails on both sides. 2 floor spacer bars. This is the wider of the 2 bars in your kit. It has pre-drilled holes. There are 6 spacer bars. The narrower of the bars, again with pre-drilled holes. Also included in your kit are 2 metal wall mounting brackets. What you'll need to provide is a bottle of white glue, carpenter's glue, Elmer's glue, anything like that. And it's also good to have a soft rubber mallet. Let's begin. First of all, the lower individual bottle rack, there is a wide gap at the bottom, which is for our floor spacer bar, and then the narrower connector points here for the spacer bars. You'll notice that on each of these places there is a nylon connector pin. This nylon connector pin is what's going to match with the holes in the spacer and floor spacer bars. I'm going to take 3 spacer bars and 1 floor spacer bar, and I'm going to just get them all lined up, and I'm going to put a drop of glue in every hole. And what this is going to do is it's going to give the chance for the nylon connector pin to really grab the bamboo spacer bar, locking it in and preventing you from having to use any kind of nails or anything like that to hold the rack together. It's a nice feature. It also provides a very, very solid foundation for your lower rack. Now that we've got the glue in, we're going to take the end ladder, and I'm going to position it with my spacer bars located where all the notches are. I'm going to take my floor spacer bar on that wide notch at the bottom. I'm going to align the hole with the nylon connector and simply slide it down and press it in. These should go in very easily. If you get any resistance at all, please stop and check your pin alignment, because the last thing in the world you want to do is to break the pin off. Okay, we have our end ladder on. Now, let's take a center ladder and we're going to do the same thing. Again, start at the bottom here. And on this one, we just want to make sure we've got all of our spacer bars aligned correctly. And this, again, should just drop in. And we're going to repeat this same process with our remaining center ladders. And that, once you get one going, they all are pretty easy to assemble because they become somewhat self-aligning. Then we take our last end ladder, and again we want the bottle rails facing that way, so it's going to work for our rack. We've got our pins aligned, and then if you want to, if you need to, you can use that rubber mallet to just simply seat them in place. Okay, now there are 2 ways that you can put a lower rack together. If you're going to be building this as a standalone rack, meaning there's going to be nothing connected or nothing sitting on the top like another individual bottle rack or a display rack. If there's nothing going on top, then we're going to take all 3 spacer bars and we're going to put them, attach them to the rack along with the floor spacer bar. However, if you are going to be using this as a base rack, connecting it to one of our upper racks, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to leave this spacer bar off, because that's going to be our point of connection to the other rack. But in this particular exercise, we're going to build a complete rack with the spacer bars attached as if it was a standalone. So again, line up my spacer bars, take the white glue, put a nice big drop at each hole. You don't want it flowing out, but you definitely want to have enough in there to really allow it to grab a hold of that nylon connector. The good thing about white glue is if you do drip a little bit of it, you can simply take a wet cloth and wipe it off before you put the rack together. Okay, so now I'm going to start again with the floor spacer bar, and this time I'm going to take a look up underneath just to make sure I'm getting these aligned correctly. And you just kind of want to wiggle the ladders a little bit until you have them all in the right slot. That fits very nicely. Then we're going to take a spacer bar and again gently apply it. If you're going to get resistance at all, lift it back up, take a look up underneath and find out exactly why it's not going in. Another spacer bar. And I think you get the idea that once you get a couple of these things on, it's really easy to have them, they just become self-aligning. And then finally, we put our top spacer bar on and give that a little tap just because I want to make sure it's on right. And there you have the lower individual bottle rack. To join an upper and lower rack together, you will have assembled a lower rack with the topmost spacer bar on the front of the rack not in place, and an upper rack, again, with the bottommost spacer bar on the front of that rack not in place. What we're going to do is we're going to use the join strip, which was provided with your upper rack, to combine these two racks together to give you one rack with a very clean appearance. So again, we're going to take our glue, put a nice generous spot of glue in each of these holes. And then we're going to take our joint strip and we are going to press it in place on the front of the bottom rack. Once in place, we take our upper rack, gently set it on top, slide the rack forward so that the pins in the upper rack align with the joint strip, and simply pull them all together until snug. Now, on the back side, we would recommend that you would want to fasten these two racks together. You can do that with a couple of wood screws. You can use a very small brad nail. You'd probably want to pre-drill the holes so that you don't end up with any kind of splits or anything like that. But two of those will just keep the rack from moving from side to side. Once the joint strip the glue in the joint strip is hardened up, you can then take your mounting hardware and mount the rack to the wall. Good luck with your assembly. Once your rack is completely assembled and the glue has had time to dry and harden in the holes, it's now time to mount the rack to the wall. Now we provide two of these metal clips which are intended to go right over the spacer bars. So if you have a stud wall, you want to find the studs, mark them on the wall, and then place these metal clips in a place where they align with the studs and put a screw right into that stud. If you're going into drywall, you can use a drywall anchor to hold it in, although it's probably not the most secure way to do it because drywall can fail. And then if you're going to some sort of a masonry block wall or concrete wall, you need to use a concrete anchor with the same application of this clip anywhere that you have that anchor hole. But with this attached, the rack will be securely attached to the wall.